Welcome to Lead Where You Live, Tucson Voices in Leadership. I'm Jamie Leon-Guerrero.
And I'm Raysun Frost. This podcast is all about real people leading with heart in our community.
We believe leadership isn't about titles, it's about action. And Tucson is full of people making a difference in big and small ways.
Join us as we chat with inspiring voices who are showing up, stepping up, and shaping Tucson's future.
Let's get into it.
Hello. Welcome to Lead Where You Live. I'm Raysun Frost.
And I'm Jamie Leon-Guerrero.
And today we are here with Randy Peterson, lead Tucson class of 2024. Best class ever.
Class ever.
Randy Peterson has been the development officer for Imago Dei Middle School in Tucson since 2022. Did I pronounce it right?
Yes.
Okay,
Your Latin
perfect.
is very good.
He brings 25 years of nonprofit fundraising and management experience to the role, including stints with KXCI Community Radio, Humane Society of Southern Arizona, and Big Brothers Big Sisters of Southern Arizona. In addition to working at a nonprofit, he serves on the board of directors for 3 Tucson area nonprofits: Cody's Friends, Compass Affordable Housing, and the Arizona Episcopal Schools Foundation. Randy is a 2024 graduate of Greater Tucson Leadership's Lead Tucson program and was a previous recipient of the 40 Under 40 Award for Leadership in Tucson, though he hasn't been under 40 for some time. When not working, he can usually be found with his little brother at a concert or sporting event, reading a biography, or watching old movies or game shows with his dog, Buster Keaton. Thank you for joining us, Randy.
Hello, and thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah. Well, we're just going to get right into it, okay?
Okay.
Randy, tell us where your name came from.
Well, Randy, I had to do a little research. I asked my parents years ago, and they had no recollection of how they chose it. It's not a family name. They didn't know anybody with that name. It does appear to come from the old Scandinavian for to rant, and you guys know me. That's probably a very fitting name for me. Peterson coming again from Scandinavia. That's, biblical implications, of course, son of Peter. But actually, my other grandparents were Clancy's, Aherns, and Santonys. So my heritage is actually mostly Irish. I've just carried that male name through the line of Peterson all these years. So
How, even though you have something that would be considered a common name of Randy, it still is something that you connect with and can connect with your personality, right? I think that's awesome.
absolutely. Yes. And for folks that always wonder, it's not Randall, it's not Randolph, nothing like that. We always used to joke that we grew up a little poor, so we couldn't afford the extra letters. So they're for Randy.
That's so good.
So Randy, then also not known as Randall, I'll be remembering that one from here on out. Where do you live, and what do you love most about where you live?
Well, I live in the El Cortez neighborhood, which is just a little bit north of downtown, kind of situated between Grant and Seneca, and I think it goes First Avenue to about Fourth Avenue. It's only about 200 houses. It's one of the smaller neighborhoods here in Tucson, but I love that it's so close to, Grant Road, more so since the construction is done in my part now. It's close to the university, it's close to downtown, all the theater, all the restaurants, everything like that. If I hit the lights right, I can make it to work downtown in about 6 minutes.
Nice.
If you hit all the lights wrong, it's maybe 10 minutes. So I love that aspect of my neighborhood. Also, El Cortez, fairly unique. We have no businesses. It's just houses, not a single business in the neighborhood. But then, of course, if we're talking in the larger sense of Tucson, I moved here 26 years ago for the weather and fell in love with the culture and the people and just everything. People are so incredibly friendly in Tucson, and I've just felt welcome since day one and cannot imagine having ever lived or wanting to live in the future anywhere else.
I feel that way too, as a Tucson transplant. I love Tucson.
I'm
Yeah,
a transplant as well, all for the same reasons, right? Like once you spend some time here and get to know the people, you just can't imagine living anywhere else.
Yeah.
absolutely. I came thinking I'd probably stay 2 or 3 years for a job is what got me here. And 2 or 3 became 5 and 10 and 15 and 20 and everything else. This is my home now.
Yeah.
What?
Do you know the background behind your like the El Cortez neighborhood?
El
Like
Cortez,
I
yeah,
always love hearing the stories of the neighborhoods because I know there's like a history behind the name. So I've never heard of this one. Like,
sure.
sorry.
It split off from a neighboring neighborhood association several years ago, but my understanding, and I've lived there in that part of Tucson for about 10 years now, it's a richly diverse area because of the racist covenants of real estate that were in place so many years ago. So I'm in an area now that has a lot of ethnic diversity,
Hmm.
really rich background, a lot of African American families, a lot of Asian families as well. It's a great neighborhood for me to be in. And it's kind of bordering on what is now Doris Thompson Park, which was Mansfeld, and that was the apparently racist developer of the neighborhood who had the park named
Mm,
after him. So the city of Tucson has fixed that, and I couldn't be more proud to say that I now walk my dog in Doris Thompson Park.
nice. Thank you for that. Again, I'm always trying to pick up like the history behind the little
Yes.
names of the areas of town. So thank you.
And have you lived there your entire 26 years in Tucson?
No, I've been there about 10 years. When I first moved here, of course, couldn't afford to buy. Always worked for little tiny nonprofits, so I've rented all over. In downtown, north of downtown, east of downtown. For many years, I was the first house you'd come to on Broadway as you drove like past the Snake Bridge, headed
Hmm.
east. What was my front yard is now the bicycle lanes headed west after the Broadway expansion.
Wow.
And I lived by the Air Force Base for a couple of years as well. Rented a house there, which was fun, except you could hear the bugle every morning at like 5:30, whether you wanted to or not.
You were really close.
Yeah, very close.
I love it.
Yeah.
But certainly where I am now is perfect. Being so able to get downtown and to the university and
Mhm.
shopping and shoot up Oracle Road and catch the freeway, but not too close to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Convenient.
So, Randy, can you tell us something most people don't know about you?
I feel like I'm such an open book, but I'll give you one story because it does directly tie into what I do now. In 2012, my New Year's resolution was that I was going to make it the year of yes. So without telling anybody, anything I was asked to do or be a part of or anything like that, I had to say yes to for an entire year. And the great story that comes out of that is meeting Reverend Ann, who was one of the founders of Imago Dei Middle School here. She
Mhm.
came and spoke to my Rotary group. And at the very end, she said, we need people that can come tutor math kids, middle school math kids, once a week for an hour. And I had to say yes. So that was actually my first exposure to Imago Dei. I tutored the same kid for 4 years and had an absolute blast to it. He's now a high school graduate and we still have some contact. He just had his first child, actually.
Nice.
That's not the fun part of the story. I mean, it's a fun part, but the other thing that I was asked to do was participate in a world record attempt from Guinness that was held here locally back in 2012. And it was an attempt to have the most people skinny dipping in one photo. Had to say yes, that was the rule.
Googling
I don't,
2012.
Unfortunately, I don't think most people are aware of that. We did not set the record, but there is a shoulders up photo of about 400 of us that all jumped into a pool at a resort to try to set the world record attempt for skinny dipping.
Okay.
Okay.
That is
That's
a story.
awesome.
Yeah, that is a story that does not often get shared, and my mother hopefully will not watch this. She's not aware of it either.
Okay, very brave. And I am just sitting here thinking about how the commitment to saying yes to anything that came your way could totally change your life. And yet I think that I often spend my time figuring out how can I say no because I say yes to so many things that I not how did you not just get like
Higher.
tired? Yeah, just like how did you not get overwhelmed with all the things you were doing?
Well, I think first of all, people didn't know that I had to say yes if they asked, right? If I'd have put that out there, who knows what could have happened? It just opened my world to a lot of new possibilities, and it was exciting. But I'll tell you that 2013 and probably the next decade became the years and decade of maybe, right? The year of yes only lasted 1 year. And like a lot of us, I think I do probably need to get better about learning to say no sometimes about my time. But
Hmm.
it just opened a lot of doors for me. I ended up planting flowers in the planters through downtown. Those were relatively new back in 2012. I'm not a green thumb. I'm not a botanist at all. But somebody said, "Hey, they're planting flowers," and I said, "Okay, I'll join you." Had a good time. So I think everybody could probably have a year of yes or maybe a month of yes at some point in their life just to see what happens.
You remind me because I have kids, right? There is a movie. If you haven't seen it yet, you might want to reminisce on your year of yes for
Jim
2020.
Carrey.
It's called Yes Day, right? The Yes Day. And
Yes,
their
Day?
deal
Okay.
was that whatever their kids, they were becoming grumpy parents or whatever. So whatever their kids asked them to do, no matter what it was, they would say yes to. So it's short for one day, short
All right.
clips of what happens when you say yes to anything that comes your way.
What was it
I'll
called?
keep that in mind.
Yesterday?
I think it was called Yes Day. I'm bad with names, so it
I
could
was
have the
pulling
wrong
up
one.
the Jim Carrey movie where, remember he is in that movie and he's like a lawyer and he has to say yes all the time and it gets
Uh,
him in trouble.
I think that was Liar
One,
Liar.
too. Liar, liar.
You could only
Yeah.
tell the truth.
That brings us to the next question, which is how does leadership show up for you in all three aspects of your life: personal, professional, and the Tucson community life?
Well, I'll start with the Tucson community. Getting the opportunity to do Greater Tucson Leadership, which I had looked into for about 15 years before I finally applied back in 23, and getting to be part of the best class ever in 24, has opened doors. I had never really served on boards of directors prior to this. Uh, and just the contacts we made with each other was fascinating for me. The opportunity to meet so many community leaders was a plus, and to attend the Board Connect event that the Community Foundation puts on,
Hmm.
which is where I initially met the folks at Cody's Friends, who asked me to, consider being on their board of directors, which I've now been able to do for slightly over a year. It's just, opened up the world of possibilities. I've always felt like I was a leader. People always told me I was a leader, but just being able to hone some of those skills and step out of my comfort zone a little bit more has made it all possible. In my personal life, I've been a mentor to a lot of kids over the years. Big brothers, big sisters, I actually got started when I was in college way back when. And I've had the honor of being matched with 7 boys who became young men over the course of about 30 years now, and still stay in contact with a lot of them. So that's kind of a personal leadership model for me. And professionally, I get to be part of a very great but small team here at the school. Nominally, I'm the guy in charge of fundraising for the school. We're tuition free, so we have to get that $3 million from somewhere. But
Hmm.
even teaching faculty, everything like that, we're a team of about 24, 25 people. So that really allows me to play a lot of different roles, and leadership can be a very critical aspect of success there as well.
Nice. I didn't realize you had that many staff there. I don't know why I
That's
thought it was
including all the
smaller.
teachers.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
Admin, we're probably about 5.
Okay.
Okay. And what would you say that your top leadership skill is?
Mm,
I've always been very analytical. I try not to rush into decisions. So I like to pull in a lot of data, a lot of opinions. I feel like I can communicate with people that I trust to give me feedback, and also have sounding boards for people that maybe I don't have that established trust with, but I know that they're going to give me honest feedback, and
mhm.
that I can pull that into my decision making process as well. So being able to analyze, taking the time to make decisions. I don't like to feel rushed. And I think that's probably where I've struggled to succeed more in the past, is when I need that very quick decision, unless it's something that seems very minor. You can take me to lunch and I'll know that I just want this item on the menu. Okay. Because it's okay. But if you're asking me to create a strategic plan for the next 5 years or something like that, then I'm going to pull in as much source material as I can and really try to make that informed decision, listen to a lot of feedback, and then do a good job of explaining how I've reached my decision to try to win people over to my side. And that's probably an area where I've struggled a little bit, is to
Mm-hmm.
convince others to
Mm-hmm.
follow.
I do think you said something that really connected with me in terms of what really good leaders do. And that was, you mentioned that you are receptive to and open and actually want to encourage feedback about yourself, right? Because I think that's where a lot of people who can err. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also one of the most difficult things to do is to be open to the critique of ways that you may not be showing up best for the people you're hoping to be a leader for. So I really love that you mentioned that as part of your skills for being a leader.
Absolutely. And for many years I worked in the restaurant and hospitality industry before coming to Tucson and working exclusively for nonprofits, which is much better. But I would always tell my employees, I don't want to ask you to do anything that I haven't done or I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
do right now. And I think that's a key aspect of leadership as well, is you have to be out front and actually do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I imagine those hotel skills of the feed, that's where you learn to hone your ability to take critique and feedback, right? Because we all
Absolutely.
know what
Yes.
customers in retail and hotel scenes can be like, right?
I got to work with some Karens before that was a term, I think. We'll just leave it there.
But also, I think like that probably is where you learned how to like, you also have to be willing to do the work as well. Like you're not going to ask them. But that resonates so much with me because I've had so many leaders in my career that just tell you what to do and like don't show up. You know what I mean? And like,
Are willing to get into the pit with you.
yeah. And I
Totally.
think that really affected me. And I remember at a young age thinking, I don't want to be like that. Like I,
If you're not willing to jump into the pool naked, then what are we?
no, but truly, and I think sometimes when you get at that higher level, I think you can forget that. And I know it's hard up there, right? Like you're managing and you're running organizations and you're doing things, but man, I think when you lose that piece, I think it's a disservice to sometimes of
Yeah.
the people that you're leading.
And
It
I think
decreases your effectiveness as a leader.
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely, and I think it's important, and I think this is something I've didn't get 25 years ago that I
Mm,
get now, is that it's very critical to know what you don't know, right?
yes.
And to find those people that can fill in those pieces. Serving on the Compass Affordable Housing Board right now, I know nothing about construction or the legal landscape or the politics or the funding, anything like that. But I can bring in aspects that they need, right? I work with people who are experiencing poverty, right? I have kind of that nonprofit sort of feel to it. But we just had our board meeting yesterday. They're talking about things in acronyms that mean nothing to me yet. And I'm quickly taking notes because I want to learn, right? I
Yeah.
want to know what I don't know.
That learning piece, right, is also part of that leadership. Like you have to keep learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I took that away from GTL, which leads me into the next question of like, what was your biggest takeaway from GTL and how has that impacted you since you graduated?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I gained from the program was all the connections made, both with the 40 or so people that were in cohort, obviously the GTL leadership team, all of the amazing speakers that they brought in. But some of the classes the issue days were very specific eye openers for me.
Hmm.
I've never done much in the healthcare field, so healthcare day was very eye opening. I consider myself an environmentalist, but I never took those logical next steps to learn about how to be a better one. And so
Hmm.
that issue day was critical. And I've been able now to give back by being part of the education day for the upcoming class of 2025 issue day. So it was, I, my only regret from doing the GTL program, the Lead Tucson, was that I didn't do it 15 years ago when I first thought about it. That should have been my year of yes.
Yeah.
Somebody should have asked that year.
Thank you for saying that out loud. So many alum that I've met, because I get to be connected to some from the past, and like I hear that all the time of like everyone thinks like this is not the right time. It just wasn't the right time for me until they do it, even if
Yes.
there's like chaos or stuff happening, and they're like, this was the best thing I ever did. So I love that you said that out loud, because I think I want more people. I would love it if more people just really understood, like, do it now and it'll be the best thing for you. I hope, right? It'll be really impactful for you no matter where you're at, even amidst like the chaos and family things happening, professional things happening. Yeah, I don't know how to explain that to people when the thing is like next year or, 15 years later for you, right, Randy? You're like, I'll do
Yeah,
it next year.
absolutely. I wish I'd had the skills I developed 15 years ago. So I
Yeah,
feel like there
Yes, you
was some
won't regret it.
opportunity left.
that's awesome.
Yeah. And you also touched also on sort of how you give back to the Tucson community. So you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. Right now, I'm volunteering and serving on the board of directors for Cody's Friends Charity, which is a group that I initially got to know when I worked at the Humane Society, started by literally a 10-year-old named Cody way back when. And they've now been serving the community since 2011, I believe, providing pet food in our community. So it helps keep pets and people together, keeps those pets out of our overcrowded shelters. Joined the board just over a year ago, all volunteer organization.
Hmm.
So it's great to be able to bring some of my skills and assets to them. Very occasionally, I also have to like unload pallets of dog food or something like that. But more typically, it's providing a little bit of leadership and advice on the top level. A great nonprofit to work with. Compass Affordable Housing, I joined their board maybe 8 or 9 months ago at the request of a friend that I had worked with many years ago at the radio station. And as I said earlier, I don't have that housing skill set, but they were looking for somebody that knew what it was like to work with the under-resourced community here in Tucson and could bring in some of those nonprofit leadership skills. That's been eye-opening and absolutely fascinating. We provide housing services directly for a little over 200 people in Tucson and South Tucson. And then also provide additional services like eviction prevention, food pantry, things like that for about, I believe, 700 or 800 more people on top of our residents. So great opportunity there. Um, and then I also, straight up just try to volunteer. Mentioned being a big brother. I always tell people it's the single best thing I've ever done in my life. I have a lot of fun. I can see the impact that it has on the kids. And just to be able to make that impact one on one with a kid has been a phenomenal part of my life. My first little brother is now in his, he's married with children, got a graduate degree from the University of Michigan. He might not have been on that path without the fun times we spent together all those years ago.
Relationships are so powerful, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to know more later, Randy, on so how you put off GTL for 15 years. I've been putting off becoming a big sister,
Do it.
but it's on my radar. And again, for me, it's just like, I don't know if I have the capacity or time. So I would love, I'm going to take you to coffee to like get, like, help me stop putting it off for another 2, 3 years. Right.
Yeah.
Like, so
We'll
we'll all,
absolutely have that conversation. I can tell you that once you get started, you'll
yeah.
want to make that time, even
Okay.
if it's hard to find right now. Yeah.
So
Okay.
I also have a follow-up question related to the work that you do volunteering and serving on boards. So Tucson is one of it has the most number of nonprofits per capita anywhere in the US. There's so many wonderful nonprofits here in Tucson. So I'm curious to know what advice you would have, or how did you decide? So what advice would you have to people who are trying to decide, where should I put my time, my energy, my money, my talent, right? How did you make those decisions, or what advice would you give?
Well, I would start by identifying what your passion is. For me, it was always the arts. It was always kids. It was always pets. So if you look at my work history, I've been able to do those sorts of things for the past 25 years. If you look at my current volunteer opportunities, again, working directly with little brothers, working in to provide pet food for people that are struggling to provide for their pets. So I would say identify your passion. That's obviously first. Then identify and see where those needs are at. I've always
Mm,
been more attracted to working for smaller nonprofits where I felt like I could have a bigger impact initially, whether as a paid member of the staff or as a volunteer. And then quite honestly, look at their tax forms, right? Are they teetering on the edge of bankruptcy, right? It may be too late to make an impact. So I like to look at that when I've been solicited to boards or invited to boards. I've always asked about things as routine as directors and operators liability insurance, right? If we screw up, am I going to have insurance and coverage, right? So you have to kind of make those decisions, see what the vision of the leadership is. If the executive director can't tell you where they want to be in 5 years, it may not be the right fit, or at least isn't the right fit for me. But and then much like everything else, and much like, we're going to talk about Jamie becoming a little sister or a big sister here, just jump in, do it, right? I served on a board once for just over a year. Wasn't a great fit. I thought it was going to be. We were able to part as friends, and I still volunteer for that organization on occasion. But it wasn't a great fit for me to be part of the board leadership team, right? And no harm in trying. We made we made a difference while I was there, and they found some other people who've done even better and even greater things for them. So take the
So
chance.
I'm hearing you say connect with your passion, do a little research, then just jump in and do it.
Right.
Absolutely.
Just
Yes.
say yes, right?
Just say yes. Yes. Make
Just
it
say
yes,
yes.
your year of
I
yes.
always tell people just like what pulls your heartstrings, like kind of your passion, and like there's a nonprofit out there that could use your help. Like whatever
Yes.
pulls at your heartstrings, go find that nonprofit, and I promise you they'll love your help. Like we all need the
Absolutely.
help.
Absolutely. And one thing I would add, because Tucson has so many nonprofits,
Mhm.
unless you're intensely passionate about something, don't feel like you have to start your own nonprofit.
Yes.
We have so many to choose from.
Right?
Honestly, when I get asked that question, Randy, I hate telling people like don't, but also like find the one that's already doing it and maybe like how can you collaborate? How can you give like,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
like
Or if your idea for filling a need in the community is a great program, then maybe that program can be something you do under an established nonprofit.
yeah, like
Yeah.
yes,
Don't reinvent the
yes.
wheel.
Mhm. Yeah. So we've come to the part of picking one of three boundary breaker questions that we'll ask. You'll pick the question, you'll answer first, and then Rayson and I will also answer.
Okay, I so want to answer all of those questions. Great questions. I'm going to go with the best advice I feel like I ever received. When I was graduating university, I did a contract assignment employment kind of for a couple of months. And then I got my first restaurant and hospitality management job with a very large company back in the Midwest, and got a chance to work with one of the co-owners. He and his brother had started the company 40 or 50 years earlier and built it into, they had multiple hotel concepts. They had 40 or 50 restaurants across multiple states. And I just remember doing an HR class with him, or a training workshop that he was speaking at, and he talked about the cost of training employees and building your teams, right? And what he said stuck with me, and this has now been 35 years ago, it feels like. uh, he said the best thing you can do is train somebody and have them leave you for something else, because the worst thing you can do is to not train somebody and have them stick around. Yeah. And that was Doug LaBelle was his name. And that was advice I've just tried to always carry with me. Always feel like you should be building up the people around you, and maybe they'll leave, and maybe they'll leave for your competition, but that beats them staying around and staying the level where you first get them.
I had a boss that gave me similar advice. Pretty much like it was my first sales job, and he was like, "I'm going to teach you how to do my job." Like,
Yes.
and I loved that because like he wanted me to be just as good as him and was just going to teach it all to me. So I love, even if that meant I came for his job one day. You know what I mean? Like he was just like, I want you to do that. Like if you're not, like, and I just that was back in like the early 2000s, and that type of leadership for me just was like, yeah, I want to be like that. And I've kind of yeah.
If I could just answer the apprentice question real quick without explanation, I would love to have apprenticed under Benjamin Franklin. I think he's the most fascinating person in American history. for good and bad reasons.
Right?
Does that mean we get to answer one of the two questions?
Yeah. Yeah.
I say let's go with his original choice, Raysun. Let's go
All
with the
right.
best advice you've ever received.
Best advice.
You go. You go first. Or do you know
Yes,
what it is? I do. Can I go?
first.
So it's brand new. It's new advice. But at Camp GTL earlier this month, we had Coach Condrea give us this amazing presentation. And man, it was the best hour. I'm so sorry to all the other presenters I've been around. It was the best hour. And like one of the best advice that I took away from that presentation was, again, as I'm like stepping into my leadership era and like I'm not luckily, I'm all luckily, I haven't had to manage anyone before, like hire anyone. Like I do. But like, let me take that. Let me change this thought. I do manage people and I do a lot.
Yes, you
But
do.
I loved that he said that like when he was like looking for players or looking to hire people, like his advice was he had 3 bullet points on this slide. And it was he looked for high energy, high output, and low drama. And like those 3 things, right? If everyone on your team is high energy, high output, like that drama piece kind of like everyone's just doing their job. Like that was kind of like the statement of what, like everyone just do your job. It's like it's so simple. I'm pushing 50 and I'm like, say that again for the people in the back. Like that just needs to be a slogan. Just do your job. And then there shouldn't be any drama because everyone's doing their job. And not just, I could quote him all day, seriously, but like I really liked that. It was like so simple. You know, everyone's like your resume and references. No. Are you high output? Are you high energy? Low drama. I'm going to take that with me for the next half of my life. And Coach Kedra, if you have a chance to hear him speak, highly recommend. Highly recommend.
Yeah. He had some really great advice. I think I have like 4 pages of quotes from him.
Yes.
It's like so many good nuggets.
Yes.
It's so hard to pick one. But I think I'm going to go with something recent. That is basically the advice that around failure, right? I mean, we've heard of growth mindset and all this stuff, but when it comes down to taking action, the best advice that I have received recently is, you know, pick your failure goal. Okay, I'm going to get 100 no's. Not I'm out trying to get 5 yeses. Pick 100 no's. Why? We have to be okay with putting out in the world and inviting all these different community leaders and having a bunch of people say no, right? We're going to get the yeses, but we have to accept the no's. And so sometimes turning your goals and thoughts around the acceptance of, yes, I got another no, that means you were out taking action. Someone else couldn't do it. Yay! I'm going to ask the next person because it's so hard for us as individuals to handle failure. Like it's just we're wired to that. So I think for me, mindset wise, that's something I'm trying to change is maybe I need to set negative goals that you're going to celebrate because then you're celebrating failure. As long as those goals are set in a way that produces action. So that's
Absolutely.
mine.
Sounds great.
Right. Almost like using those failures as learning moments.
But
I think Coach Kendra mentioned, didn't he say something about like failing forward?
yes, he did. Failing for you.
So, and I loved that. Like that was in my little nugget. So I wrote down so many pages, but it was like failing forward. And I love that because it's like, yeah, it's not a setback. It's a forward. It's still a forward. And it's just like really changing your mindset. Like such a good speaker.
And it's such a direct translation from what he does. The
Mhm.
best player fails at the plate 70% of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So hopefully we can fail forward with this, our new video podcast series and being leaders every day and make a difference. We are moving on to some quick thoughts. We're going to be asking you some rapid fire questions and this or that short answers. So let's see what you got. City life or country life?
City life. I was born on a farm, but I cannot imagine living anywhere other than Tucson and specifically any city.
If you were an animal, what would you be?
I would be my dog because he has a personal servant, no bills, gets to take naps all day long, and his food just magically shows up when he needs it.
I'd love to have my food be like, I don't have to think about it, right? And it's just like, here's exactly, and portioned. Like, here is
Yeah,
exactly what you have to eat. Here's your one treat. No, you don't get any more, right?
yeah.
Phone call or text.
Text. And that's a big change for me from, even 5 years ago. I would have said phone call. Now, please don't ever call. Just send me the message.
How would you describe yourself using only 3 words?
Compassionate, dedicated, honest.
Early bird or night owl.
Early bird because our school starts at 7:30 in the morning. So
No choice.
historically night owl.
What was the last book you read or listened to?
Okay. I'm not a big fan of listening to books. So I most recently just finished a biography of Jim Thorpe, the great Native American athlete who was voted the top athlete of the first half of the 20th century. But I feel like his stories maybe been forgotten over the years.
That's cool. We are at our last question there, and that is, do you have any special projects or events that you would like to promote? Again, thinking about maybe later in the summer or early fall.
Well, absolutely. At Imago Dei, we are a tuition-free school, so I just encourage folks to always learn about their opportunities to support the work that we do here. Those primarily take the form of tax credits, so we'll start talking about that again roughly in October of 2025, and you got about 6 months to get that in. And then quick pitch for Cody's friends, we do 22,000 pounds of donated pet food every single month. So if you can ever throw your support there, that's a great way to show your love. And I'll just pitch a third one, even though I'm not directly involved. With everything we have going on in the world, with everything we have going on in our lives and the political climate and the economy and everything else, protect the arts. Even if that's just going to a concert, right? Or taking a shot at something like that. Buy a theater ticket, buy a concert ticket, throw a dollar into the guitar case when the guy's busking down on Fourth Avenue. Support the arts. It's worth it in the long run.
Thank you, Randy. I really have appreciated
Yep.
our time together and look forward to seeing this in its final production mode.
Looking
Yeah.
forward to it as well. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being our guest on Lead Where You Live. That's a wrap on today's episode of Lead Where You Live. We hope you're feeling inspired by our guest's story and the impact they're making right here in Tucson.
If you love this conversation, help us spread the word. Share this episode, subscribe on YouTube, and tag a local leader who should be featured next.
Because leadership starts with showing up, and we know Tucson is full of incredible people doing just that.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Lead Where You Live.